Up first this evening, the Jamaica Teachers Association, JTA, is urging the Ministry of Education not to add any more schools to the 125 set to join face-to-face classes next week. President of the JTA, Jasper Gabriel, says the caution is needed until the country understands the COVID-19 situation post the Christmas and New Year's celebration. He's also warning the government not to abandon the vision of a technology-powered education sector because of more face-to-face classes.
The new school term is set to resume on January 4, and another 125 schools are expected to join the 17 schools which were part of the pilot in November for face-to-face learning. Many of the returning students have had no face-to-face contact in close to a year. That is a distressing reality for those with ambitions to lift the country's literacy and numeracy.
For the students that have been out of the loop since March on account of lack of connectivity or devices, I think efforts should be made to make sure that those are the students that we seek to bring into the face-to-face arrangement so that rapid remedial action measures can take place. This will have to be set in the context of particular schools because schools are performing at various different levels.
But there's a slight concern ahead of next week's planned reopening. The COVID-19 cases continue to climb, and there is anticipation that the cases could spike after the holidays. It's why the president of the Jamaica Teachers Association, Jasper Gabriel, is telling the authorities to structure the operations at schools around data.
I wouldn't recommend that we open any additional schools right now apart from the additional ones that were slated for January 4. Given that we need to examine what's happening coming out of the Christmas season and what the positive cases are going to be like. We pray and hope, that we have no positive cases breaking out in our schools. That's the last thing we would want.
The JTA president believes that school leaders should be notified of the number of students at their schools who test positive for COVID-19 so they can help with containment measures. Mr. Gabriel also wants the Ministry of Transport to collaborate with the Ministry of Education to mobilize units to help students with safe transportation. The JTA head says the reports he's received indicate that only one educator has died from complications associated with the virus, while only a handful of teachers have been confirmed positive. The authorities, in the meantime, are being warned not to use the return of face-to-face classes as an excuse to abandon the programs, to put more gadgets into the hands of students, or to stop outfitting schools with internet services.
We would have made significant strides as far as provision of devices for students and teachers is concerned. The training of teachers, we are expanding at a rapid pace, fairly rapidly as far as internet connectivity is concerned. We cannot afford to drop the ball with that. We cannot allow the whole discussion of face-to-face to overshadow the realities that we face right now. Blended learning is here to stay.
In the meantime, opposition spokesperson on education, Dr. Angela Brown-Burke, says there's far too much uncertainty about the face-to-face reopening of schools.
I am well aware that there are schools that are looking and in discussion with the Ministry of Education about reopening face-to-face. But in many of those cases, it's not all the schools, and therefore it's not all the grades, rather, that are going to be reopened, because you're not reopening all of school face-to-face at the same time. And so what that means is that there is the potential of really no one speaking to the majority of parents.
She says it is unacceptable that the majority of parents still do not know what to expect come Monday.
I believe that what is required, and I'm calling on the Ministry of Education to do that, is to make an announcement, is to speak to our parents. Don't leave it up to schools alone, because schools are busy trying to reopen for those grades that they have targeted, and they are busy consulting with those parents, and they're busy trying to work out what needs to happen at school. We need a broader conversation about where we are with our schools and what our parents should expect.